Okay, well, if that's the case, then I think maybe let's just take a look at what other games are out there. I'll give you all an idea of what to request on future streams and such. And I do have quite the selection for us to go through, so it ought to be pretty fun. I wanted to start with one of the more complicated games in my collection. Complicated to the extent that it has a playtime of 3 to 8 hours and requires a minimum of 3 players. So it's a 3 to 6 player game with a generally minimum 3-hour playtime. This one we won't be doing on stream, but I know that there are some Battlestar Galactica fans out there, so I wanted to at least give it a chance to get some screen time going. This bitrate's dropping again, so hold on 1 second. This new camera I got is 4K, and I'm not trying to stream in 4K, but I mean, yeah, I'm definitely trying to I don't know, 10. Deadlock could definitely take some time to get through. That game is not a quick game either. I did find at a store the other day that there was a Battlestar Galactica ship battles tabletop game, which that one could be interesting. It's a 2-player minimum, but as you can see, I haven't ever even unwrapped this one because I have nobody in the house who is either interested enough or patient enough to play this game with me. So, but it's basically a fleet and ship battles game, and I know that a lot of you, and 10 in particular, will appreciate the miniatures that come with it. I've swapped out one of my older cameras to be a miniatures camera now. If I can figure out, there it is. Okay. So, this one does indeed have some miniatures to it, and they are actually very miniature. But it's got Raiders, Raptors, and Vipers all available, which I think is pretty cool. For their size, they've got some really decent detail going on here. Hey, let's try this. This is fancy. My new camera has a zoom on it that I can also use to be able to show off things like the miniatures here. So, not very well, I guess. I'll figure it out as we go, I promise. And they're not actually on pegs either. They're just flat so that they can navigate around the board. So you've got a board that's basically the Galactica and the surrounding area. So everything in the game takes place either aboard the Galactica. Oh yeah, I should zoom back out, sorry. Everything in the game takes place either aboard the Galactica or in the space around it as if it were being attacked by Cylons. So it's a combination space combat slash terrestrial strategy game with a lot of the hidden elements that made the Battlestar Galactica reboot so interesting, with the who's a Cylon, who's not type stuff going on in there too. So if you've got friends and like most of a day, I think that would be a fun one, because I love Battlestar Galactica, and well, I would definitely play anything involved with it. So, well, that's good, Slinky. I'm glad that the camera seems to be working out, even if I still have to figure out the settings. So Battlestar Galactica is not a practical one for streaming, but like I said, I just kind of wanted to show it off. So moving on, seeing as we talked about ships and or space combat, I hope everything's not frozen, because my view is frozen. Let's see. Let me refresh this, see if my view refreshes. Yeah, see, that would be a short game in that case, but anyway, as long as we're on space battles, let's take a look at another one that's purely a two-player game. So it's a total head-to-head game, but it's got one of the largest varieties of expansions that I've seen out there. So, like I said, I saw one for Battlestar Galactica that's similar to this not too long ago, and then 10 shared that Star Trek one, and it reminded me of this pretty quickly. And that's this Star Wars miniatures game. So this game is purely a space combat game, and it's, well, in the starter set here, it's X-Wings versus TIE Fighters, but like I said, there are so many expansions for it, up to and including, I believe, Star Destroyers and everything from there down. I've seen Corellian Corvettes, I've seen a lot of EU stuff that is available for the game, like the Ebon Hawk from Knights of the Old Republic, or Dash's Outrider from Shadows of the Empire. So this one is another one that nobody's wanted to play yet, so but it's very much purely oriented on the space combat. So you have really nicely detailed and pre-painted models. So I think that the game is, worth it just on the quality of the models alone. And there's so many more to buy. But the models get suspended on plastic stands, and then you have various components that mimic space flight, like these flight paths. So, two-player strategy, head-to-head space combat, from fighter all the way up to capital ship. But another one that I would love to play if I could convince one of my children or something to play it with me. They've just never really had much interest. That and the traders never really picked up the Star Wars fandom either, so don't know what that says about my parenting, but there it is. And I have actually not played Armada yet, 10, so it was one that I was definitely interested in, but my focus has primarily been on picking up games that have a solo play component, because, well, that's generally how I play. So, unfortunately, as long as we're on Star Wars, though, here's another one that is, I have not played multiplayer, but does have a single player component and will hopefully be showing up on a future stream. Well, this one is a very much miniatures tactical conflict game set in the original trilogy setting. But it's far closer to Armada than... Oh, tell her I said hi back. We miss her on the channel. But this one is far closer to Armada because there's a lot of capital ship scale going on in this one. And as you can see, just by the bag of miniatures that I have here, that there is a lot of capacity for fleet all the way down to starfighter battles in this game. We've got everything from the Death Star to a Mon Cal cruiser to regular Star Destroyers, some assembly required. But then you can get down to lower fidelity, all the way down to like ground troops. So you can do ground combat with Imperial or Rebel soldiers versus stormtroopers. There are ground units like AT-ATs and AT-STs. So pretty much anything that you wanted to play scenario-wise in the context of the original trilogy, this game will support. So this one will absolutely be coming up on a stream at some point. Don't know when, but it is on the agenda. I know that there are quite a few of you guys that are Star Wars fans, so. But I wanted to show some of the ships that I know we all really care about. Here's a nice Corellian Corvette. And for as small as they are, they do get nicely detailed, so some good ship models there. But we also have several types of fighters with X-Wings, Y-Wings, Snow Speeders. There are B-Wings in there that I couldn't dig one out, but there are B-Wings and A-Wings, AT-STs, a little bit of everything in there. So regardless of what kind of setting you like for your original trilogy adventures, this is the game that you'll want to be able to play it. I don't remember when this one in particular came out. Slinky, we can double check real quick. I think it was early 2010s, maybe? No E-Wings. Only ships and characters, etc., that showed up in the original trilogy. So if you didn't see it on screen, it didn't make it in-game. And yes, the Rebellion board game is actually still available, Slinky, so at least Amazon's got it, but it looks like most of the other board game places out there have it in stock also. So still available, still being supported. I think that it's got, oh yeah, it does. It's got 2 different boards here, so depending on what type of scenario you're playing, you can have a space-centric scenario on a galaxy board, or, yeah, exactly, before all that stuff was washed away by the all-powerful hand of, I guess we have 2 different galaxy boards. So I thought one of them was a terrain board, but it's actually not. It's one continuous board that joins in the middle. So this one came out in it looks like actually around 2016-ish. So, and it does have expansions as well, so it's at least one expansion to go along with the core game. So there's another option for all you Star Wars fans out there. But as that one focuses more on space combat and more on original trilogy stuff, let's look at one that actually takes a unique approach to the Star Wars franchise with one that's not Rebels versus Empire and Jedi versus Sith focused, with Outer Rim, which is another one that has a single player component and will be showing up here on a future stream. But oh, I lied, 10. Well, both you guys actually. I lied when I said that there was no expanded universe, because I forgot that the expansion in this game, called Rise of the Rebellion, I think has some of the Heir to the Empire stuff mixed in with it. So, a little bit into the EU. But Outer Rim here is a smuggler-focused game on the fringes of the galaxy. So, unlike those last two, this one uses a circular board that gets put together like puzzle pieces to represent the galactic rim and all the planets that occupy it. So you build up your circular board, and then the game is about running missions and moving goods around that outer rim. So no miniatures in this one, just cardboard standees and tokens, but it does have a unique take on the Star Wars universe that a lot of the other games just don't give you. So, if you're looking for something with a Star Wars feel, but you don't want to be Luke, Leia, and Han, I know the Millennium Falcon's on the front here, but then this is a game that has some potential for you. It's got, oops. I'm no good at this yet. Okay, there we go. I have to stop at 3. But it's almost tailored in its setup to accommodate more like a single player. So this one I am definitely looking forward to getting to here on stream, because I think it will be quite a bit of fun. It is playable by 1 to 4 players, but as usual we'll be doing the single player mode, although it does list a playtime of 2 to 3 hours. So yeah, I forgot to say on Rebellion, but Rebellion lists a playtime of 3 to 4 hours. So some of these games are not really built for quick playthrough. But lastly, before we move on from Star Wars, I have one final one that I wanted to... Oh, I guess I've got 2 final ones that I wanted to bring up. The first of which is purely ground combat with Imperial Assault, which is a tactical miniatures game, 1 to 5 players. This one has various different play modes in it as well. So you can do cooperative, you can do good guys versus bad guys campaign, you can do skirmishes. Each one has its own, essentially, its own rulebook and play guide to go along with it. So depending on what mode of play you're considering, then it has not really much of a board, but that's not really what everybody cares about anyway. What everyone cares about is these guys. So this one has a bunch of miniatures available, including some of those creatures from the Clone Wars, from that arena scene. It's got some characters you wouldn't expect to see in a combat game like this, with Imperial Guards. Stuttery video again, huh? Let me see here. See if I can make another... crap. Alright, let me see if I can make another adjustment here. Kick the bitrate down and change my encoder settings and see if that fixes things up a little bit. Hopefully so. Just refresh this. Yeah, apparently there are still some things to work out with my new camera setup, so for now, let's do this though. We'll just kick all of these off and we'll just go with a single camera setup for now. Maybe that'll make things move a little more smoothly. Hopefully that's the case, but let me know, Slinky, when everything catches up, if that's behaving a little better. How's that? Anything? Are we a little smoother now, or are we still stuttering and bogging down? A lot of my video doesn't seem to be updating on this side, so I have no idea what that translates into on the viewer side. Well, it's good the audio works at least. Too bad this isn't a podcast. Well, hopefully everything says good with the connection, but hopefully alright, let me try one last adjustment here. Sorry everyone. Alright, okay, cool. Well, hopefully that sticks around for a little while. Like I said, we'll stick with the single camera and go from there. So this one is, as I mentioned, a purely ground combat game. So it's got the buildable maps on it, and a ton of expansions, like just a really ridiculous amount of expansions for this one, all covering different pieces of Star Wars lore. I know there's an expansion that's got Thrawn and characters from his timeline stories. There's prequel expansions, but it's also got really nice miniatures with things like those arena creatures from the Clone Wars and the Imperial Guards from the Emperor's throne room. So, but then you've got things like scout troopers on turrets. You've got Wookiee warriors. You've got the occasional Jedi, but they're scarce, so this one appears to be like Aayla Secura or some unnamed Twi'lek. But this is another one that's 1 to 5 players, so a candidate for a stream. And it actually has a shorter play time than some of the others that we've looked at before, with only 1 to 2 hours listed. But here are the last couple of really cool pieces. We've got several probe droids available, so, and unbuilt as it is, you also have, for this initial set that I've got, a pretty decent sized ATST. Let's see. Probably just throw it together real quick. Take a look at what that has to offer. So this is like an Endor adjacent scenario here for this game, but some of the other ones out there for other play settings give you different scenarios to go through too, like the not original trilogy, the prequel trilogy set has several battle droids and various other miniatures there to add to it. Well, I don't know how to force that turd in yet, and I'm not going to try, but this is what the ATST looks like once it's assembled. Like I said, no nose turret, but still pretty cool, and not quite to scale with the figures, but not terribly far off either. So I do want to pick up some of the expansions and some more stuff with this game, but they're probably unsurprisingly not cheap. So not really something that's taking a lot of precedence for me right now, you know? Yeah, that turret's a pain. I will deal with that later. But throw these back in the box real quick, and then I have one more Star Wars game that's a single player compatible that I wanted to mention before we move on. It's a game that actually finds its place on a lot of the best solo board games lists. So I know I shared one of those with some of you guys not too long ago, and I have been picking up quite a few from that. No, the main set definitely isn't cheap, but actually I've seen quite a few sales on them recently, so I think that if you keep an eye out, it's something you can find at a reasonable price eventually. But yeah, it doesn't start off cheap at its base price, that's for sure. Oh, yeah, I forgot. This particular set, because it is original trilogy focused, does have 2 hero characters. So here's your Darth Vader figure. I'm zoomed in again, aren't I? Here's your Darth Vader figure for this particular set. And I don't like that. Why isn't anything working the way I want it to tonight? Let's go back to having this one set up, but there you go. Here's Darth Vader. And although he's not in an Endor appropriate outfit, here's the Luke Skywalker hero figure. So each of the core sets is going to come with a pair of hero figures to supplement each of the various combat units that are included. Also, I lied on that expansion for Rebellion. It's not a Thrawn era expansion. It's actually a Rogue One era expansion. So that one includes all of your Rogue One era technology, not your Heir to the Empire era technology. But lastly, on the Star Wars front, we have a prequel-only focused Clone Wars game. like I said, this one shows up on a lot of best single-player games out there. And for any of you who are familiar with it, it's based on the Pandemic system. So Pandemic is a cooperative, basically stop the infectious disease board game. And Clone Wars takes that same concept of stopping the spread of something and applies it to the Star Wars universe. In this case, the spread is more of a threat in the physical sense than the disease that you're trying to stop in Pandemic. So you've got an interconnected play area on the board that has all of these various locations throughout the galaxy. You have a set number of hero figures, including, again, Ayla Secura. Everybody loves their Twi'lek Jedi. Twi'lek, however you choose to pronounce that. Except for possibly Lucas, who killed her off quite quickly. But you've got Ahsoka, even though she wasn't in the Clone Wars movie. I like to think this one is more based on the cartoon. But you've got a couple of other good ones in here, like Luminara. She's not someone you see popping up in a lot of games. So, another good one that's single player friendly and only lists a playtime on here of about an hour, 1 to 5 players. So, and this one, there, if you need more proof that it's focused on the Clone Wars cartoon, it's also got Asajj Ventress in it. So, and as I said, it generally shows up in the top 10 for best single player experiences when you look at the various lists out there. So it's another one that I'm quite looking forward to playing. But besides the named character miniatures, it's also got a ton of battle droids in it. And is the last of the Star Wars games that I brought over to show off. But I do have some others. There's a Star Wars deck builder game, 2 different deck builder games actually. There are a couple other multiplayer type Star Wars games out there. But that's what I brought for discussing on this particular stream. So now that we've gone with their acquired property, oh, there's also Villainous, which I did not bring over, but we'll do another kind of presentation of various games like this in the future that focuses more on some more casual games, because there are definitely some casual games out there like Villainous that may appeal to those of you who have people in your households who are less inclined to gaming but may be able to be convinced if the game is more player friendly. Speaking of more player friendly, next up we have a core Disney game rather than an acquired property in Sorcerer's Arena. This one is much more of a card-based game. And for those of you who've potentially seen it, there's a Sorcerer's Arena app. It's pretty much a squad building PvE app. So in this game, you're doing that same thing, and you're squad building in the Disney universe using Disney's stable of characters. So what's cool is you wouldn't normally expect to see those in this kind of setting, but they've got a really nice wide variety of characters available from all their different properties that serve various normal group mechanic roles that you can put them into and build squads around. So I actually played the app on the phone for quite a while, which is why I bought this game. And it's kind of a lot of stupid fun. So my assumption was that the board game would also be a lot of stupid fun. Unfortunately, this one is not single player friendly. So I have not had the chance to get too in depth with it. But also, unfortunately, I don't think this one has any miniatures. No miniatures, but still one I need to con one of my children into playing. And it lists itself as having around a 30 to 35 minute playtime. So a little more casual, 2 to 4 players, and essentially just a last person standing wins type game. And as long as we are on the core Disney train, we have one more to take a look at that I actually found on clearance at Walmart. This one is 2 to 4 players, 40-minute playtime, and probably significantly easier than the others that we've talked about so far because the age range on it is listed as 8 and up. And this one I liked because it focuses purely on the sidekick characters from the Disney universe. So based on what you can see here, you've got Apu, Lumiere, Tinkerbell, Timon and Pumbaa, and the 3 fairies from Sleeping Beauty. I knew nothing about this game, and still really don't, because again, 2-player. But it appealed to me because, well, 1, it was on clearance, and 2, it has some really nice miniatures with it. So each miniature essentially is those characters you see on the front of the box, but then supplemented by the villain characters from their same franchise. So like Scar, or Jafar, Maleficent, things like that. So just some fun Disney stuff to play around with, and interestingly enough, a game that incorporates a 3-dimensional aspect as well, because it has 3-dimensional terrain allowing you to build up various obstacles and stuff on the board. So if you have some younger players or people that are really not into the complicated stuff, that one is a good option for that scenario. But sticking with young players for a little bit, here's one that my wife in particular loves, but is a nice family game based on the Willy Wonka universe. My stream is way behind the live video, by the way, so apologies for that. I have like a, geez, I don't even know, a couple minutes lag. So you guys can still go ahead and comment and ask questions, but if I don't answer them right away, it's because I'm forward in time. But this game is very basic setup wise, with your 5 characters from the movie. And various locations around the town that get set up in a 3x3 grid. And you basically go around collecting these different types of tokens that act as currency that you can then use to purchase Wonka bars. And you play until all of the Wonka bars have been bought throughout the game. So these over here, these are all your Wonka bars. And you just continue play, moving around the 3x3 grid, buying chocolate until there's no more chocolate left to buy. And then, at the end of the game, everyone goes through and they open their Wonka bars and see if any of the Wonka bars that they've managed to collect come with a golden ticket. Also, initial setup when you first open this game, putting all these Wonka bar wrappers together and the bars in them is a very tedious process, but fortunately it's a one-time deal. So but for anyone who's ever wanted to kind of live the excitement of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, this game is a pretty good analog. See, here you go. One of them is going to have the golden ticket. Nobody knows who wins until the very, very end. So there's plenty of strategy involved in collecting the chocolate, but pure luck in deciding the final winner of the game. And honestly, my wife just liked opening the Wonka bars to see, regardless of whether she won or not. Alright, so next up we have a handful of 80s themed license games. So some of them require more than one player. We likely won't be playing them much on stream. Oh, yeah, the Golden Ticket game, that one has, well, it says 2 to 5 players with a 20 to 30 minute playtime. Ages 10 and up. But the first of these 80s licensed properties is listed as being 2 players, ages 12 and up, with a 45-minute playtime. But it is The Rocketeer, based on a cheesy movie that I really enjoy. So this one is a head-to-head one-on-one game where one of you takes on the Rocketeer role and the other one the spy role. It does have a handful of miniatures with it, which fans of the movie should recognize. They're all straight out of it. So all of your bad guy figures here, the gangsters from the movie. And then you got your good guys with the love interest, the scientist guy, and of course the Rocketeer. And last but not least, because you're essentially playing through the movie in this one, you've got the Zeppelin for the climactic battle. So I would really enjoy having somebody that would be just, you know, a head-to-head gamer for these two players. There's a lot of games out there that are two-player focused, but I really don't, so I haven't tried this one yet either. But I love the Rocketeer, so I thought that it would be a fun get. I'll figure it out eventually. Like I said, we may just do some streams in the future here on the channel that I play two-player games, just playing on both sides of the board. So keeping up with 80s licensed properties, we did Ghostbusters on stream, so I didn't bring that one out again, but next I've got Back to the Future, the game. And a lot of these, you can see it looks very similar to the Rocketeer as far as design. It's got the iconic artwork on the board when you first take it out, because both of those, or the Rocketeer and this one, both come from Funko. So Funko did a whole series of games like this in the same kind of vein. But this one comes with your Hill Valley map, a rule book that mimics Tales from Space, and a picture that indicates how much time you have left in the playthrough. So you are on the clock, no pun intended, for this game, and you're essentially playing through the story of Back to the Future 1. So it does have some nice three-dimension setup to it. I'm not going to assemble it right here, but you actually build the clock tower. So as you proceed through the game, you've got that as kind of a visual landmark. But this one also has some nice miniatures. First and foremost, the DeLorean. Nice full-colored DeLorean, and almost to scale. It's a little big. But then it's also got miniatures of the characters as well. So all of the main characters that show up in the movie appear here in miniature form. So Lorraine and Marty's dad. We've got Biff and Marty and Doc, and even Jennifer has a miniature. But most important of them all Einstein has a miniature in the game, so this is definitely a good one for any Back to the Future fans out there, and sticks pretty close to the concept and plot of the original movie. But moving on, we'll take a look at some more of these Funko games because, like I said, they did a whole kind of series of them. And, well, being the 80s oriented guy that I am, I picked up most of them. But next up, we have the Goonies. Again, another play the story of the movie type game. But this one is much more an adventure game. So, unlike the maybe tactics-based previous entries into these, this one is far more kind of adventure-focused, like the movie itself. It does also have your miniatures of the actual Goonies, so never fear, all of these Funko games come with those. But these miniatures even include things like the giant octopus, or the Fratellis, and even have One-Eyed Willie himself as a miniature, as well as all of your normal members of the Goonies, Chunk, Data, etc., and Sloth. So this is another one for any of you out there who love the 80s, like I love the 80s. But all of these Funko games, besides sharing similar design aesthetics, also share the player numbers and play time. So again, this one requires at least 2 players and takes about 45 minutes. So 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, lists the play time as 50 minutes, and this one actually comes or has an expansion available for it. So next up on our trip through the 80s in Funko Land, we have E.T. Again, it's a play through the movie. Using a map of the town to navigate around and try to evade the authorities while getting E.T. back to his mothership. The characters in this game for miniatures are all set up on their bikes and ready to ride around the town. You've got a health tracker for E.T. And you've got E.T.'s ship that's going to come to rescue him. So again, you're playing the events of the movie and reliving a classic 80s experience. But as I said, these Funko games all follow along the same path for kind of play guidelines. So this one is ages 10 and up, 2 to 4 players, and lists a playtime of 30 minutes. So that's it for the Funko. I do have a couple of other games from Funko from that same era, not based on movies, but we'll look at those some other time. One's Pac-Man and one's Space Invaders, but for this particular video, I decided to stick with the movie games. So now we'll move away from Funko and into one of the other biggest game producers out there with Ravensburger. But this is Ravensburger's take on Jaws. This one is also 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, and is essentially a shark hunt. So you have Amity Island, and you've got the orca in the waters around Amity Island. And unlike the Funko games, this one is not packed with miniatures. This one has meeples instead. So here are your meeples with Jaws, your 3 main characters, and the orca and the secondary boat. So you track Jaws' movements around Amity Island, and you try to hunt him down. But Jaws is also equipped with several special abilities and gets more power and capabilities as he eats more swimmers. So not exactly like it happened in the movie, but I think that a straight up shark hunt would probably be a difficult concept to make a full board game out of. Although they did make that NES game out of Jaws. Do you all remember that? Where you'd flash the strobe lights and then try to ram him with the orca? It was not a great game, but they tried at least. Next from Ravensburger, I think, is one that will catch a lot of attention from you guys in particular, because it is Gargoyles, based on Disney's Gargoyles. And this one, oh yeah, Jaws is also 2 to 4 players, 12 and up, with a, no, it was not the worst LJN game, that's absolutely true, Slinky, but still not great. And Jaws lists a 1 hour playtime. But Gargoyles here, I think everybody is going to enjoy. It has a city map, but the whole thing is 3-dimensional. And it's got several buildings that you set up on the city to give the gargoyles terrain that they can use to navigate around. Because, well, we all know they glide off of buildings. This one I have played because my kid was interested in gargoyles for quite a while, and it was quite a bit of fun. But you are essentially, just like in the cartoon, facing off against Xanatos and trying to defeat him before he takes over the city. So you don't have any villains represented in miniatures form. Exactly, the castle above the clouds. But that's not to say that you don't have plenty of other miniatures in this game. So you've got your weak little human I guess she's not weak, but you know, she's not a gargoyle, so. But then you've got Hudson. You've got Broadway. Lexington. Is the red one Brooklyn? I can never remember. And last but not least, Goliath. So the full lineup. Bronx is also in here as a token that is kind of like a special ability. But a full lineup of gargoyles ready to defend the city against Demona and Xanatos. So the bad guys are going to be represented by tokens, and they're the two big bads and a bunch of the Xanatos robots. So it was quite a bit of fun, and I definitely recommend it for Gargoyles fans, which should be everyone, because Gargoyles was amazing. Well, this one is also a 2-player game, I believe. This one lists itself as 2 to 5 players with a playtime of 45 minutes to an hour, ages 10 and up. And lastly, from the Ravensburger games, this is another one I found on clearance somewhere. And, I mean, as a comic fan, a cartoon fan, I could not pass it up. But it's a Wonder Woman game with Wonder Woman Challenge of the Amazons. And it is essentially a game about defeating Ares and other classic Wonder Woman enemies on the island of Themyscira. So it's got some really nice artwork, not just on the back of the board, but on Themyscira itself. It's got a number of different Amazons you can play as, and a number of villains you can play against. So this particular game has 5 different members of the Amazons as playable characters. And it's got some classic villains in the form of Ares, Circe, and Cheetah. But best of all, it's got some really, really great miniatures. They're like highly detailed and cast in this bronze-looking plastic. So those alone, to me, were worth the cost of admission, especially considering, like I said, I got this one on a clearance shelf also. But all 5 of the Amazons that are available have their own miniature in the box too. So no villain miniatures, unfortunately, but at least we do get all of the heroes in miniature form. This one is another 2 to 5 player, 45 to 60 minute game for 10 and up, so yet another one on my to-do list that I didn't have anybody in the house interested in playing. Alright, next up, I've got one that I wanted to break out specifically for Slinky. I mean, a lot of these are definitely Slinky forward, because I know how many of these properties he's enjoyed so far. But now we have Godzilla Tokyo Clash, because everyone needs a Godzilla game. And this one is essentially about defeating other monsters and destroying Tokyo, which is represented by several different buildings with different score values and bonus values for the kaiju. It's got a multiple configuration board, so you can play different setups of Tokyo for different games to give some nice variety to replays. But the absolute best thing about this game, I did also play this one because my kid liked the idea behind Godzilla too. But the absolute best part about this game are these guys. So I think we've got, who is this one? Megaguirus. We've got King Ghidorah. Ghidorah, I don't know how you want to say it. I know Brandon goes round in circles on the pronunciation in one of his Godzilla reviews with Ghidorah, Ghidra. We got Mothra. And, of course, we've got Godzilla. So this one is essentially each player grabs a kaiju, and 2 to 4 players, it's kaijus going at each other in Tokyo with the Tokyo military trying to put a stop to it. And it's a ton of fun, destroying buildings and slapping down your kaiju opponent. I have another one that I'll show on a future video called King of Tokyo. That's not Godzilla licensed, but it's very much kaiju themed game. Oh, and it wasn't Megaguirus. Sorry, that was Megalon. Each kaiju has its character card to go with it to track how much damage they're taking from their opponent throughout the game. And yes, those are some awesome miniatures. I'm quite a fan of those. Again, a ton of detail on these things. But unpainted, like all my miniatures. Alright, so from here on out, we're definitely going to look at some of the more complicated games in my collection. But we'll start out with one based on a larger game franchise called Zombicide, which is obviously a zombie game, but this one is specifically a Marvel zombie game. So using the Zombicide mechanics, but set in the Marvel zombie universe. And this one is very similar to the Marvel Zombie comics in that you're one of the few non-zombified heroes left, and you're trying to stay that way against all of the zombified heroes that are still out there. This one's got a configurable board as well, with 4 sections that are each 2-sided for interior and exterior. But best of all, this one has some great miniatures with all of the zombified versions of iconic Marvel characters like Zombie Cap, Zombie Captain Marvel, and then Zombie Doctor Strange, Zombie Iron Man, and then for hero characters you've got Vision, Wasp, Winter Soldier, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Hulk. But all done in just really nice detail. And it's a hero versus hero game of survival. So there's lots of tokens on standees to supplement the miniatures. And it can be quite an overwhelming game as these this large number of additional minions start getting added to the board. Yeah, we could. We could do, well, I guess Godzilla's from Funko. We could do the Goonies versus Godzilla. But, yeah, mechanically, I'm not sure how that would work. If once I'm done figuring out Borderlands, if that's mechanically similar to Masters of the Universe, maybe we'll have to do Borderlands versus Masters of the Universe, which, if done correctly, should be a very short game, but you never know. There's a lot of expansions for the Marvel Zombies out there also, including one that I saw is currently on a deal on Amazon that's a Sinister Six standalone expansion. So if that's a game that appeals to anyone, Jaws versus Godzilla would be cool. Yeah, scale them up. Except Jaws is a Ravensburger game and Godzilla is a Funko game, so not quite. But sure, we could figure something out. We would just have to treat Jaws like Ebra, the sea monster kaiju. Yeah, so currently 35% off on Amazon, but a standalone that doesn't need any other any of the core set or anything to go with it. Yeah, I saw a little bit of that too, but no thanks. Here you go. So, Clash of the Sinister Six, currently available at a decent discount on Amazon, and has some pretty great miniature versions of the zombified Sinister Six. So that one's around. And then the Zombicide core game has several expansions to it also, as well as one that's a Dawn of the Dead licensed version. But because we were supposed to do Borderlands tonight, let's talk about some video games for a second. Like one of my personal favorite video games, XCOM. So, any of you who've played XCOM know that it's a squad tactics game, and that it has what can be a significant difficulty curve to it. The board game is no different and can also have quite the difficulty curve. This one's listed as 1 to 4 players, 1 to 2 hours, and ages 14 and up, and is very much the video game in board game form. It has a companion app that you actually need to use to play it. But if you have played it, the video game that is, then this view probably looks familiar. Because it's very similar to the command view from the video game. So this one does have a really nice selection of awesome miniatures with it as well. And it's very much a humans defeat the aliens. So because it's based on the Firaxis more modern versions of XCOM, you've got your 4 character classes from the video game: the snipers, medics, or support, I guess they're called, heavy weapons, and your attackers. So you're going to build your squad out of variations of those. You can see each of these miniatures has a slot on the back of it because you're going to individualize them with various cards that grant their special abilities and their unique identifiers. You've also got several Avenger minis. So your jets that you use to shoot down aliens and to deploy your troops. And you've got a whole bunch of UFO minis as well. So this game is all about the squad tactics and can have quite a significant difficulty curve to it. But it's one that I very much want to get to on stream because, well, I just love XCOM. I might have to figure out my play area before I do it on stream, though, because one of the things that I've read about it is that you do a lot of rushing around the table to get things done. So I don't really have the best setup for doing that here. So I might have to make an adjustment. Alright. So keeping up with video games, we have probably one of the more complicated component-wise games in my collection with Resident Evil 2. 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, 90 to 120 minutes playtime. But it's also listed as, well, not listed as, but described by various reviewers online as having a setup time that can be up to an hour to an hour and a half just to get the game ready to play. And you can see why. There are so many different ways that the maps can be built. There are so many different weapons in the game that each get their own ammo counters. There are tons of expansions to this one that I do not have any of because I haven't even really gotten a chance to play through the core game. There's also a Resident Evil 3 board game out there. But best of all, there is a very nice set of miniatures for this game. Most of which are zombies in some form or another, including your zombie dogs. So you've got your regular humanoid zombies, but better yet are your zombie dogs. You've got lickers, for those of you familiar with the game. You've got some of these, I forget what these guys are called. They're down in the sewers, right? I think. But best of all, you've got Tyrant as one of the miniatures that the game comes with. So obviously, just like the video game, the board game is about escaping Raccoon City as either Leon or Barry. Or Rebecca or Claire. So there are a lot of moving parts to this one. Oh, that wasn't Rebecca, that was Ada. Sorry. For some reason I thought Rebecca was in this game, but it's Ada Wong. But each of the expansions comes with different characters and different zombies, and adds even more difficulty to the game setup. So another in the line of zombie games out there, but not based on Zombicide or any of that stuff. Comes from Steamforged Games, actually, who is... who did we play from Steamforged Games? I forget what one that was, but we've played a Steamforged game on the stream before. Might have been Judge Dredd. I don't know. I'd have to double check that, but... Alright, so... got a few last ones to go over on this stream. So, first off, we'll go back out into space, but a Parasite Eve game would be cool. That would be quite a bit of fun. But right now, let's go back into space with another Ravensburger game with Alien, Fate of the Nostromo, which lists a player number of 1 to 5 with 45 to 60 minutes of playtime for ages 10 and up. And I did play this one with my kid, and we had quite a bit of fun with it. It's essentially a survival game, and fully based on the first Alien movie, Aboard the Nostromo. So your play area is all the interior of the Nostromo. And you're essentially tasked in this game with gathering everything that you need to outfit the escape ship and get away from the alien. Fortunately, the game has some pretty cool miniatures with Ripley. Wait, that one wasn't Ripley. That one must have been, what's the blonde's name? I forget. I've got it here, so. Lambert. That's it. So yeah, Lambert. There's Dallas. There's Brett. Yeah, the morale tracker, because every time somebody even comes across a hint of the alien, the difficulty ramps up thanks to that morale tracker. Parker. There's Ripley. And last but not least, the xenomorph that's going to be chasing them around the entire time. So yeah, a full game about staying away from the evil alien that's going to eat you while you collect everything you need for a trip on the escape pod. And this one has a little bit of an adjustable difficulty because you can add in Ash, who's not a miniature but a standee, as an extra obstacle that has to be overcome to make the game that much harder. So that one's cool because it's very much in line with the horror aesthetic of the movie as far as being in this confined space and not knowing where the alien is, because there are several hatch pieces that get put on various spots around the game that once you approach the hatch, when you activate it, it flips over and reveals whether or not there is an alien on the other side. So it sticks with that horror aesthetic. Yeah, I'll have the soup. It sticks with the horror aesthetic of the first Alien game or movie. But if you're looking for less of the horror aesthetic and more of the action aesthetic of the sequel, then we've got that too, in the form of Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. Oh, no, I think I already mentioned how many players and stuff that first Alien one was. But this one is also a single player friendly one with 1 to 6 players with a 1 to 2 hour playtime, ages 14 and up. And similar to how some of the other games we've looked at have been set up, this one's got a configurable play space. So various different configurations of LV-426 available. And as you might have seen just then, I don't even have all the pieces punched out. That's how much I've been able to play this one so far. But I have some work that has to be done before I can play this one, because it comes with several miniatures, and you will appreciate this 10. They are not ready to play out of the box. They are actual models that need to be built. So I have to build the models, do the gluing, ideally at some point paint them, but this one comes with several Colonial Marines and several more aliens. But even better, this one also has quite the number of expansions, including a Queen Alien expansion that comes with Ripley called Get Away From Her, You Bitch. It's got a set that comes with more of the Colonial Marines called Badasses of Hadley's Hope. And the rarest one, I'm not even sure if it's official, but I saw that there was an APC out there that I would love to have, but there's a lot of other pieces to this game that you can buy to supplement, and this is one that I was kind of a holy grail game for me for a long time that I finally got a hold of on a reissue because it was unavailable for quite a bit. So it's one that I definitely am looking forward to playing. I just need to learn some modeling first so that I can build those figures and get them all nice looking. But finishing out our time and space is Firefly, the game. This one's from Gal Force 9, who also made the Aliens game we just looked at. And this was another one that I wanted for a very long time, but was out of print, and then was released by Barnes & Noble as a store exclusive re-release. So this one is all about flying the Serenity around and finding jobs. Again, haven't really played this one yet, but all of these that I haven't played, I did enough research into to know how badly I wanted them. We could add some 40K to it. 10. I've got an Inquisitor board game out there. This is a galaxy-spanning space adventure doing various types of missions like you would see in the show, using multiple versions of the Serenity, because it accommodates up to 5 players, or possibly 6. So it comes with several Serenities, so each player can have one to fly around, as well as a Reaver ship to cause problems and scare people, and a government ship to enforce anti-smuggling laws. So a game about trying to make the most money you can in the best way you can without getting eaten by reapers or reavers or arrested by government officials. Similar in some ways to that Star Wars Outer Rim game that we looked at earlier. And for those of you who are fans of Firefly and are just dying to know, yes, it also has Wash's dinosaurs. Alright. So, sticking with space, kind of. but moving away from the world of real life TV and movies, we have a game based on another of my favorite properties, Cowboy Bebop, Space Serenade. This one is actually a deck builder, similar to some of the other deck builders we've played. And believe it or not, is all about bounty hunting. So in this game, you'll have the Bebop, and around it you'll have multiple locations of various planets that you can fly to do bounty missions on. The bounty missions will of course be displayed on Big Shot, so bounties will appear on the bounty board. You will fly around the system trying to take out whatever bounties you can using any of the Bebop's 4 crew members, all while at the same time trying to avoid Vicious. So you will be building your deck as you go to facilitate those things. And best of all is the fact that this one does indeed have miniatures. And they're good sized miniatures too. So we've got Vicious. We've got Faye. We have Jet. We have Spike. And last but certainly not least, we even have Ed and Ein. So my kid and I played this one. It was a lot of fun. Because not only do you have the deck builder aspect, but you have the impending threat of Vicious that you have to be working against as you go, as well as the fact that you have to navigate around the system in order to be able to track down your bounties. It played with a feeling very much like watching the show, which is probably the highest compliment I can give it. So lastly, we will finish up with some more deck builders, but we're going to stay in the realm of superheroes. So first up, we have one from Fantasy Flight called Marvel Champions, which is, as they describe, a living deck builder, or a living card game. So you'll notice there aren't a lot of cards in this box, but there's a lot of free space for cards. That's because there are about 1 million expansions for this game. I think somebody totaled up how much it would cost, and it was like $4,500 to buy everything that is out there for Marvel Champions. But those releases include things all the way down to single characters to expand the game with. So yeah, a lot of room to grow this one, but it's very much a good guys versus bad guys deck builder. And best of all is that it's got really nice, straight from the Marvel creators artwork. So really nice looking cards. And the thing that makes this one a little different is you're actually going to be playing with specific character decks. So, like this one that I just showed was the Spider-Man deck. You will build the various decks that you want based around that single character. So, best thing about this, well, I guess I've already said that, but one of the great things about this is that it's, supports a single player. So it's a 1 to 4 player game. And it says it's got a playtime of around 45 to 90 minutes. So that's one option for deck builders for those of you who like Marvel. And as I was saying here, there is a large number of expansions for this game and decks for individual characters. So it just keeps going and going to multiple pages of expansions that can be purchased. But if that's not the kind of Marvel game you're feeling, then you have another option for Marvel deck building in the form of Legendary from Upper Deck. And Legendary incorporates much more standard gameplay elements into it in the form of a board with missions and various non-deck building focused game aesthetics to it. So this one also has a rather ridiculous number of expansions for it. So there's that. But unlike the previous one, it's not based around single characters. It's based around the ability to build a deck out of whatever you want, like a regular deck building game, and has several different hero choices in it. So this one is another one that accommodates a single player, because I think most game companies have come to learn that there's a very big market for games that can be played by loners like me out there, and have started to cater to that market by ensuring there is a single player option in all of their games. Legendary is pretty cool though too, because the Legendary system has so many different properties in it that you can actually cross over. There is a Predator and an Alien version of Legendary. There's a Matrix version of Legendary. I think there's a Men in Black version of Legendary. So all sorts of properties that can in some way mesh together there. And last but not least, we'll go to some deck building in the superhero realm that isn't licensed. I know, weird, right? There's still some of those out there. But this one is a very highly rated one and kind of new to my collection, called Sentinels of the Multiverse. And is a traditional deck builder that's character focused. So each deck is built mostly around a character, and then you have additional decks that are built around locations. But the game goes so far as to include a lore book that gives you the backstory on every single one of the characters in the game and all of the villains that they will go up against. So if you're looking for some new heroes and villains that aren't like anything that you've seen, and I mean, They're obviously like anything you've seen in Marvel or DC because that's just how it goes. But then this game is an option there with some really kind of well-developed characters and a decent art style. And a nice comic book element incorporated into it that creates events within the game that you have to complete, and just presents something a little different than the other deck builders we've looked at so far. Honestly, my favorite deck building game is probably the DC one, but it's a 2-player only game, and hard to do a single playthrough because it's not, or not, I'm sorry, not a single playthrough, but a single player playthrough because it's not cooperative like most deck building. It's very much a competitive, who can defeat the most villains deck building game. So, but all of the deck builders I just showed here do have a single player version of them. This one here, the Champions of the Multiverse, is 1 to 5 players with a playtime of 30 to 60 minutes. So, those are just some games in my collection that I thought we'd take a look at and kind of do a brief overview of. Got more like Elder Sign, which is a Lovecraftian game from the same world as the Arkham horror game. I just picked up this one the other day. This is the card player version, or the card version of a game called The Castles of Burgundy, which is one of the all-time great board games out there. I just got this one the other day too because I thought that it looked cool and it's very well rated. But, you know, I was talking about how thick the instruction books are for things like Borderlands and what was the one I was, The Thing. But in this one we have a rule book, which is, you know, another 30 pages long, an introductory game, as well as all of the various maps, flight logs, all of the scenarios you can play through. This one is an ongoing game, even, where you can continue from one playthrough to the next, playing an entire campaign, and has the potential to last quite a while. Yeah, the spiral bound's great because, you know, then you can actually lay them flat and have some of the pages be play surfaces for things you're doing in the game. This is an adventure exploration game. Oh, and here's how you track your progress from one playthrough to the next. You actually have disposable journal logs or journey logs that you track progress on, and that way if you close out the game during a playthrough and you come back to it like the next week or something, you can refer to your log and know where you left off in the game. So there's a lot to that one. Might be a while before I even try to give that one a playthrough. But yeah, lots of games like that. We can look at something like an espionage game. Deep State's all about international espionage. We can do things like different exploration game. Picked this one up at a yard sale. Somebody had a board game and fantasy science fiction book yard sale. And this is one of the games that was in it. And this is an all exploration based, not really a deck builder, but card centric game. These are just what happen to be under my table right now. So we have a game that's all about building settlements and surviving with a group of people. So this one's another one I got from that yard sale. I don't think the previous owner ever played it, because most everything's still unpunched in it, but another bit of the Arkham horror universe. So some more Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythology. This one's the card game, but I also have the miniature strategy game. So we have some good space conquest game going on with this one. That was the last one I got from the yard sale, but we got some high fantasy with another miniatures strategy game with Lord of the Rings. We've got some outer space deck building with the space version of Clank, which is a pretty highly regarded board game. So basically what I'm saying is I've got a lot of games and enough to keep this stream going for quite a while. And next week I promise that I will have learned a new one to go through. But yeah, that's probably enough for tonight. But definitely some good things to show off here. Yeah, I've also got the Lord of the Rings deck builder as well, Slinky. So this one though is this one's the miniatures game. So this one has full up strategic miniature battles going on. With tons of orcs and trolls, and you've got 6 different hero characters that you can play as, including Gimli and Legolas and I think Arwen, and they're not all just the I've seen the movie characters, so that's a nice change. But yeah, if any of you have specific requests out of anything we talked about or looked at tonight for future streams, then definitely let me know and we can put them on the schedule. I know I owe everyone a playthrough of The Thing and now Borderlands, so those will be coming up. And I don't know what we're going to do Tuesday. Actually, yeah, I do. I know what we'll do Tuesday. Let's go ahead and plan on a playthrough of Fate of the Nostromo on Tuesday. We'll do a little bit of alien goodness and, a game that I've played before that I don't have to learn all the rules from scratch. So if anybody's interested in that, then I hope to see you there. And otherwise, next Sunday I will definitely have prepped for either The Thing or Borderlands. So we'll see which one, but It'll be one of the two.